I put out a tweet just passing the time. I think I was in the middle of sets at the gym. And I said, hey, what would you change about this sport to just blow up the entire history of college football? What moments could you change that would just send shockwaves throughout the sport, way beyond just maybe the teams or two that it involved? Texas Tech, 2008, was one of the popular submissions. And the question, of course, is what happens if the Graham Harrell to Michael Crabtree pass doesn't happen? It falls incomplete. Do you remember what the situation was? Texas is number 1 in the country. Both of these teams are 8-0. It's early November. There is no time left on the clock. It's 33-32 Texas until it wasn't. And the Red Raiders, led by Mike Leach at the time, walk it off. Stunned silence on the Longhorn sideline. We don't have a 12-team playoff here. You can't afford to lose. Some of you think these moments will still happen. No, they won't. This will be a bygone era one day soon, kind of already is. Texas was out. That was it. Colt McCoy looks devastated because he is, because they fell from being the number 1 team in the country to number 5 after that loss. But what if he dropped the ball? What if it got batted incomplete? What if time just runs out and Texas wins 33-32? Well, I'll tell you, the first thing that would have happened is Texas would have left Lubbock, Texas as the number 1 team in the country. And here's why that's significant. Remember what the championship game was that year? It ended up being Oklahoma and Florida. Oklahoma loses to Florida and Tim Tebow. Sam Bradford and Oklahoma lose to Tim Tebow in Florida. Texas beat Oklahoma that year by 10, actually. And so I have just unfettered curiosity, and you know how rarely I use that word, but just unfettered amounts of curiosity about how Texas would have fared the rest of the season, because even as it was, they didn't lose another game. I want to know how Texas, who ended up finishing number 3 in the country, how they would have fared against the Florida Gators. How differently could we possibly remember Colt McCoy? Because the next year, they go to the title game, but that's the whole if Colt didn't get hurt thing. And so as a result, he never wins a title there. And with that current team, Mack Brown never wins a title. In fact, Mack Brown never wins another title at Texas. How differently could we remember them? How differently could the Big 12 have looked? And how differently could things have played out for Florida? I don't know. But on the other side of it, Jesse told me earlier today, I think it was Stuart Mandel that voted this the number 1 game of 2008. I would agree, and that was a crazy year, coming off the craziest year in the history of the sport. 08 was pretty crazy too. That's before Saban and Bama have ascended to the mountaintop. They're on their way, but they wouldn't win their first title until the next year. So it's Urban Meyer in Florida. We're a couple of years removed from the Vince Young Texas national title win. So it feels like there's a lot up for grabs in the sport. LSU and Les Miles, 2 losses, had won the title the previous year. So we were in a stretch there where a different team had won the title several years in a row. It was like Miami, Ohio State, LSU in 03, USC in 04, and then you had Texas in 05, 06 is Florida, 07's LSU again, and then 08, who knows, Texas may get right back into the equation until they don't. But think about this. That game came to define Mike Leach. That game came to define Texas Tech for a generation of people pretty much my age. People in their late 20s to 30s, they think about Texas Tech, they think about that moment. They think about Mike Leach, they think about that moment. Michael Crabtree ended up being the first top 10 draft pick. He ended up being the highest draft pick out of Texas Tech since 1965. Graham Harrell, when you think of him, that's it. That's the moment. So much got defined that night that just changing one little thing, one little drop pass, who knows how the rest of history would have played out. Oh, and by the way, there is the not so insignificant matter of the Heisman Trophy, because Oklahoma's Sam Bradford ended up winning that thing over Colt McCoy, who was number 2. If Colt McCoy and Texas end up winning that game, he probably wins the Heisman Trophy, because you would have had voters, even though I don't think it's supposed to come down to this, you certainly would have had voters who looked and said, well, if they're equal in my mind, Colt did beat Sam Bradford on the field, even though they were never on the field at the same time. I have no love lost for the Heisman voting process. I'm just saying he may very well have won. Oh, for the record, Tim Tebow finished third there. What if Texas Tech and that pass at the end of regulation falls incomplete? What if?
Guys, thanks for watching Late Kick. Make sure and leave a comment. I love interacting with you. But most of all, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. That's how we keep all of this free.